Welcome back, everyone. We're about to take a deep dive into the world of effective communication.
Ooh, exciting.
It really is, and to guide us on this journey, we have a fascinating ebook, Il segreto della comunicazione efficace,
Which translates to,
The Secret of Effective Communication. I think we all want to know how to get our points across right and how to really, truly hear what other people are saying. So this one's for all of us.
and what grabbed me right away about this ebook is, you know how we always hear, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
This book really takes that idea and runs with it.
It makes you realize how important clarity is, being concise, using a positive tone. I can't tell you how many times I've completely zoned out during some rambling, jargon-filled presentation.
Oh, we've all been there. But this ebook actually offers a pretty radical solution. Strategic silence.
Wait, what? Silence?
Yep, you heard that right. It's called a pregnant pause, and it can actually make your words more powerful.
See, now that's counterintuitive. I always feel like I have to fill every silence. Like I'll seem unprepared if I don't.
I know, right? But think about it. A pause creates anticipation, right?
Mm,
Gives the listener time to actually process what you've said. It's like a dramatic pause in a movie. Keeps you on the edge of your seat.
I kind of get it. And speaking of keeping people's attention, this ebook is really big on storytelling.
Ah, yes. Everyone loves a good story.
I saw this presentation once where the speaker droned on and on about statistics, and you could practically hear the snores.
Hmm.
But then they told this personal story that perfectly illustrated their point.
Yeah.
Everyone was hooked. Suddenly it all made sense.
It's because stories tap into our emotions, you know? We
Right.
connect with them on a much deeper level, and they stay with us long after the facts and figures fade away.
That makes so much sense. You know what else this ebook really opened my eyes to? Nonverbal communication. I never realized how much we communicate without even saying a word.
It's amazing, isn't it? Our posture, our gestures, even how much eye contact we make, it's all sending a message.
A raised eyebrow,
Skepticism,
slumped shoulders,
disinterest,
a firm handshake.
confidence.
Wow. It really is a whole language in itself.
And sometimes it speaks louder than words.
The ebook even cautions against smiling too much, especially if you want to project authority or seriousness.
Makes you think about job interviews, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, a genuine smile is great, but you don't want to be grinning like a maniac the whole time.
It's all about reading the room, right? Knowing when to dial it up, when to dial it back, adapting your nonverbals to the message you want to send.
So true. You know, something else that really struck me was the discussion on personal space. You know, those invisible boundaries we all have.
Oh, absolutely. We all have them, even if we're not consciously aware of them.
Have you ever been in a conversation where someone's standing just a little too close?
Yeah. So awkward.
It just makes you so uncomfortable,
Yeah.
you know? And it really highlights how important it is to respect those boundaries.
Especially in different cultures where the norms might be totally different. You could accidentally offend someone without even realizing it.
That's a great point.
Hmm.
Okay, let's move on to what this ebook calls a communication superpower, active listening.
Ah, yes. The cornerstone of any successful interaction.
And it's so much more than just waiting for your turn to speak. It's about truly understanding the other person's perspective, both what they're saying and how they're feeling.
It takes real effort, though, doesn't it? Especially these days.
What do you mean?
Well, we're bombarded with information 24/7, social media, emails, notifications.
Right.
It's so easy to get distracted. So to really focus on what someone's saying, to be fully present in that conversation.
It's a skill we have to practice. It's not something that just comes naturally.
Exactly. And you know what this ebook suggests? Paraphrasing.
Like repeating back what someone said.
In your own words, yeah. To make sure you're both on the same page.
It shows you're really listening. And it can prevent a lot of misunderstandings.
Especially when you're talking about something complex or emotionally charged.
This actually reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend recently who was going through a tough time. And instead of offering advice or trying to relate it back to my own experiences, I just focused on listening.
How'd that go?
It made a huge difference. Just letting her know that I heard her and that I understood what she was going through.
It's amazing how powerful that can be. And you know what? This ebook connects active listening with another essential skill, empathy.
So the idea is that by truly listening to someone, we naturally start to put ourselves in their shoes.
Exactly.
And that's the foundation of empathy. Understanding another person's perspective and feelings, even if you don't necessarily agree with them.
It's not always easy, though, is it?
Especially when you're dealing with someone who has totally different views than you do.
Right. But this ebook really challenges us to try, to think about a recent conflict we've had and ask ourselves, could a little more empathy have changed the outcome? I know I've been doing a lot of reflecting on that myself. It's fascinating how this ebook ties empathy to conflict resolution.
Oh, interesting.
It argues that if you can approach those disagreements with empathy, it can actually change things. Instead of feeling like you're in a battle, you start to see those conflicts as opportunities for growth.
That's a powerful shift for sure. Instead of seeing conflict as something negative to be avoided, you see it as a chance to learn, maybe even bridge those differences.
Exactly. And ultimately, find solutions that work for everyone involved. I used to be someone who really shied away from conflict,
Okay, cool.
but this ebook makes a good point. Conflict is kind of inevitable.
Yeah, I guess you can't really avoid it completely.
In any relationship, really, whether it's with family, friends, or colleagues, there are bound to be times when you disagree.
So it's more about how you handle it.
Right. Exactly. And this ebook outlines some helpful techniques for managing conflict constructively, like staying calm, expressing your needs clearly, and really focusing on finding a solution that benefits both sides, not just trying to get your way.
It's about compromise. Right.
Exactly. And the ebook also emphasizes something that I think is really important: choosing your battles.
Oh, that's so true.
Sometimes walking away from a conflict is actually the healthiest choice.
So true. Especially if you're dealing with someone who's just not willing to have a reasonable conversation.
Right. It's about protecting your own energy and well being. And sometimes stepping back can give everyone a chance to cool down?
Totally. It prevents things from escalating. And then maybe, when everyone's a little calmer, you can come back to it and have a more productive conversation. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about feedback.
Ooh, another juicy topic.
I know, right? And the ebook calls feedback the gift and the curse.
I love that. So true.
It really captures that duality, doesn't it?
Mm,
Because on the one hand, feedback can be incredibly valuable for growth.
totally. It helps us see our blind spots.
Right. It can help us identify areas where we can improve. But on the other hand, giving feedback effectively is a real art.
It really is. And receiving feedback without getting defensive.
That's another challenge altogether.
The ebook really dives into strategies for navigating this whole feedback thing.
Yeah, like walking that tightrope.
Exactly. It makes the point that feedback should be about helping someone improve, not tearing them down.
It's about offering insights and observations that empower them to grow, not criticize or judge them.
Right. So one of the things the ebook emphasizes is being specific, focusing on behavior rather than personality.
Oh, I like that. So instead of saying you're so lazy, you would say,
Something like, I noticed that the report wasn't submitted on time, or I've noticed that you've been arriving late to meetings lately. You're addressing the action, not labeling the person.
so it's not about making judgments about their character. It's about creating an opportunity for dialogue.
Sure. Exactly. And, when it comes to receiving feedback, it's important to remember that it's not always a personal attack.
Easier said than done.
I know, right? But it's true. The person giving you feedback is simply offering their perspective. And their perspective might be different from yours.
That can be tough to hear sometimes, especially when it's negative feedback. It's so easy to get defensive.
Oh, totally. But this ebook really encourages us to try and approach feedback with an open mind.
And a willingness to learn, even if it's not what we want to hear.
Exactly. Because even if you don't agree with everything that's said, there might be some valuable nuggets of truth in there, things that can help you grow and improve. It's about separating the message from the messenger.
That's a great way to put it. The ebook also has some really insightful advice about navigating those difficult conversations.
Oh, the ones we all dread.
Yeah, the ones where emotions are running high, opinions clash, and finding common ground feels impossible.
Whether it's with a coworker, a family member, or even a stranger, those conversations can be so challenging.
They're unavoidable, though, aren't they?
Unfortunately, yes. But this ebook gives us some strategies to help us approach those conversations with the right mindset.
So what's the key?
Well, the ebook reminds us that the goal of these conversations isn't necessarily to win.
Not about proving the other person wrong.
Right. It's not about getting them to see things your way. It's about finding a resolution that respects everyone's needs and perspectives.
It's about finding that common ground, even when it feels elusive.
Exactly. And one of the most valuable pieces of advice the ebook offers is to approach these conversations with empathy.
Even if you disagree with the other person.
Even then, Try to put yourself in their shoes. Try to understand where they're coming from and why they feel the way they do.
It's about seeing things from their perspective.
Exactly. And, another important thing is to stay calm. Don't let your emotions get the better of you.
Easier said than done.
Right,
Oh,
totally. But the ebook gives us some practical tips for staying calm in those heated moments, like taking deep breaths, speaking slowly, and using I statements. Oh, I love I statements.
they're so helpful. Instead of saying, you're always so inconsiderate, you could say, I feel hurt when you make plans without consulting me.
It shifts the focus, right? Instead of blaming the other person, you're expressing your own experience.
Exactly. And you know what else can be really powerful in those difficult conversations?
What's that?
Simply listening.
Just listening.
Yeah. Give the other person the space to express their feelings without interrupting or judging them.
That can be so hard, though, especially when you're feeling passionate about something. But I can see how it would create a more supportive environment.
Exactly. It allows for that open dialogue. It's amazing, isn't it, how this ebook really brings it all together.
I know, right? We've covered so much ground. The power of words, but also how much we say without even speaking.
Body language, active listening, empathy.
And then, of course, those trickier aspects of communication, giving and receiving feedback, and how to handle those conversations that can be so tough to navigate. The ebook frames those as essential skills, though, not just for, personal growth, but for really achieving our goals, building those solid relationships.
And I love how it describes feedback as the gift and the curse.
Oh, that's perfect, because it really is both, isn't it?
It is. Receiving feedback, wow, it can be so crucial for growth. But giving feedback in a way that's actually helpful,
That's a whole other story.
it's an art. But the key takeaway for me from this ebook was that feedback, at its core, should be about helping someone improve, not tearing them down.
Right. It's about offering insights and observations that empower them to grow, not just pointing out flaws or criticizing.
And the ebook really stresses being specific, right?
Yeah.
Focusing on behavior, not personality.
Exactly. So instead of saying you're lazy, you might say,
I noticed the report wasn't finished on time. Something like that.
perfect. Or, I've noticed you've been arriving late to meetings. You're talking about the specific action, not labeling the person.
So it's less about judging their character and more about creating a space for open dialogue.
Exactly. And on the flip side, when we're on the receiving end of feedback, it's so easy to take it personally.
Oh, we know.
But it's important to remember that it's not always a personal attack. It's just someone offering their perspective. And their perspective might be different from yours.
Oh, absolutely. But that can be so hard to hear sometimes, especially if the feedback is critical. Like, I know my instinct is to get defensive.
Totally normal. But this ebook encourages us to try and approach feedback with a more open mind, a willingness to learn, even if it's uncomfortable.
Because even if we don't agree with everything that's said, there might be some truth in there, something we can learn from.
Right. It's about separating the message from the messenger, which can be tough, but ultimately so helpful. You know what else this ebook tackles head on?
What's that?
Those conversations we all dread, the difficult ones.
Oh, yeah. The ones where emotions are running high, opinions clash, and finding common ground feels impossible.
Whether it's at work, at home, or even with a stranger, they're just part of life. But that doesn't make them any easier, does it?
Not at all. But this ebook gives us some really good strategies.
Yeah.
Helps us approach those conversations with the right mindset.
And one of the most important things it emphasizes is, remember, the goal isn't necessarily to win.
Not about proving the other person wrong.
Nope. It's not about getting them to see things your way. It's about finding a resolution that respects everyone's needs and perspectives.
Finding that common ground, even if it feels hidden.
Exactly. And, one of the most valuable pieces of advice, approach these conversations with empathy.
Even if you disagree with the other person.
Yep, even then. Try to step into their shoes. Imagine why they might be feeling the way they are. It's about trying to understand their perspective.
And even when it's tough, try to stay calm.
Right. Don't let your emotions take over, which, again, easier said than done. But the ebook gives some practical tips.
Right.
Things like taking a few deep breaths before you even start talking, speaking slowly, and using I statements to express your feelings and needs.
I statements are so helpful.
They really are. So instead of saying you're always so inconsiderate, you could say, I feel hurt when you make plans without including me.
It shifts the focus, right?
Yeah.
From blaming the other person to expressing your own experience.
Exactly. And sometimes, honestly, the most powerful thing you can do in those tough conversations, just listen.
Really?
Give the other person space to share their feelings without interrupting, without judging.
That can be so hard, though, especially when you feel strongly about something.
I know. But it can create a more supportive environment,
Yeah.
a space for genuine dialogue. So that's a lot to digest, right? From the power of silence to handling tough conversations. We've really explored the whole spectrum of communication here.
It's been an incredible deep dive, and
Yeah.
this ebook, The Secret of Effective Communication, has given us so much to think about.
It has. And it all comes back to this. Communication is a powerful tool, not just for resolving conflicts, but for achieving our goals, building stronger
And
relationships.
it's a skill we can all continue to develop.
Absolutely. So, as we wrap up, I'd love to leave you with a question to ponder. What's one communication challenge you're facing right now? And what's one small step you can take today to start improving it?
Remember, even small changes can make a big difference. Keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep those communication channels open. And that's a wrap for today's deep dive into the secret of effective communication. We hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, happy communicating.